Which quote is most improved by tacking here, in the middle of this olive garden to the end of it? Dread it, run from it. Destiny still arrives, here, in the middle of this olive garden. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die here, in the middle of this olive garden. The line must be drawn here. This far, no further. Here, in the middle of this olive garden. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti here, in the middle of this olive garden. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears, I come to bury Caesar here, in the middle of this olive garden. You come to me here, and you ask me for a favor, on this, the day of my daughter's wedding here in the middle of this olive garden? Is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch, here, in the middle of this olive garden? I was born a poor black child here, in the middle of this olive garden. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, here, in the middle of this olive garden. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die here, in the middle of this olive garden. I'm not locked in here with you, you're locked in here with me, here, in the middle of this olive garden. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky here, in the middle of this olive garden. Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me here, in the middle of this olive garden. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France, we shall fight on the seas and oceans, we shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air, we shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, here, in the middle of this olive garden. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you, I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you, I will find you, and I will kill you here, in the middle of this olive garden. Our arrows will blot out the sun. Then we will fight in the shade, here, in the middle of this olive garden. In less than an hour aircrafts from here will join others from around the world and you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interests. Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July and you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win today, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today we celebrate our Independence Day. Here, in the middle of the Olive Garden. It's over, Anakin, I have the high ground, here in the middle of this Olive Garden. 77 years ago our fathers brought forth on this continent, a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Andy Dufresne, who crawled through a river of shit and came out clean on the other side here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Aurora Borealis. Here. At this time of year? Localized entirely here, in the middle of this Olive Garden? In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, here, in the middle of this olive garden. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life, here, in the middle of this olive garden. I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to the knee here, in the middle of this olive garden. This is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, here, in the middle of this olive garden. The man who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, however humble he may be, this day will elevate his status. And gentlemen in England, still lying in their beds, will think themselves accursed because they were not here, and be in awe while anyone speaks who fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day, here, in the middle of this olive garden. Don't tempt me, Frodo, here, in the middle of this olive garden. I have had it with these motherfucking snakes here, in the middle of this olive garden. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Here, in the middle of this olive garden. I couldn't stop for death, but he kindly stopped for me here in the middle of this olive garden. The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me here, in the middle of this olive garden. Ayn Rand. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die. Here, in the middle of this olive garden. Sons of Gondor, of Rohan. I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day. An hour of wolves and shattered shields when the age of men comes crashing down. But it is not this day. This day we fight. By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I bid you stand. Men of the West. Here, in the middle of this olive garden. Ready your breakfast and eat hearty. For tonight, we dine here, in the middle of this olive garden. Ahoo, ahoo, ahoo. What the fuck did you just fucking say about me, you little bitch? I'll have you know I graduated top of my class in the Navy SEALs, and I've been involved in numerous secret raids on Al-Qaeda, and I have over 300 confirmed kills. I am trained in guerrilla warfare and I'm the top sniper in the entire US Armed Forces. You are nothing to me but just another target. I will wipe you the fuck out with precision the likes of which has never been seen before on this earth, mark my fucking words. You think you can get away with saying that shit to me over the internet? Think again, fucker. As we speak I am contacting my secret network of spies across the USA and your IP is being traced right now, so you better prepare for the storm, maggot. The storm that wipes out the pathetic little thing you call your life. You're fucking dead, kid. I can be anywhere, anytime, and I can kill you in over 700 ways, and that's just with my bare hands. Not only am I extensively trained in unarmed combat, but I have access to the entire arsenal of the United States Marine Corps, and I will use it to its full extent to wipe your miserable ass off the face of the continent, you little shit. If only you could have known what unholy retribution your little clever comment was about to bring down upon you, maybe you would have held your fucking tongue. But you couldn't, you didn't, and now you're paying the price, You goddamn idiot. I will shit fury all over you and you will drown in it. You're fucking dead, kiddo, here in the middle of this olive garden. Ah. I love the smell of napalm here, in the middle of this olive garden. Be not afraid of greatness, some are born great, some achieve greatness and some have greatness thrust upon them, here, in the middle of this olive garden. God is dead. God remains dead. And we have killed him, here, in the middle of this olive garden. Nizish. There's 106 miles to Chicago, we've got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes, it's dark out, and we're wearing sunglasses, here, in the middle of this olive garden. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting here, in the middle of this olive garden. Art of War by Sun Tzu. If anyone is wondering, if I had a gun with 2 bullets and I was with Hitler, Bin Laden, and Toby, I would shoot Toby twice, here, in the middle of this olive garden. I haven't been fucked like that since grade school, here, in the middle of this olive garden. So I started blasting, here, in the middle of this olive garden. The target area is only 2 meters wide. It's a small thermal exhaust port, right below the main port, here, in the middle of this olive garden. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the middle of this olive garden. You don't understand. I coulda had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody here, in the middle of this olive garden. I'll have what she's having here, in the middle of this olive garden. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us here, in the middle of this olive garden. Gandalf loves his olive garden. That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry here, in the middle of this olive garden. I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not, here, in the middle of this olive garden. Oh hi Mark. ET2, here, in the middle of this olive garden, brute. Look. Having nuclear. My uncle was a great professor and scientist and engineer, Dr. John Trump at MIT, good genes, very good genes, okay, very smart, the Wharton School of Finance, very good, very smart. You know, if you're a conservative Republican, if I were a liberal, if, like, okay, if I ran as a liberal Democrat, they would say I'm one of the smartest people anywhere in the world. It's true. But when you're a conservative Republican they try they do a number. That's why I always start off, went to Wharton, was a good student, went there, did this, built a fortune. You know I have to give my credentials all the time, because we're a little disadvantaged. But you look at the nuclear deal, the thing that really bothers me, it would have been so easy, and it's not as important as these lives are. Nuclear is so powerful, my uncle explained that to me. Many years ago, the power, and that was 35 years ago, he would explain the power of what's going to happen, and he was right. Who would have thought? But when you look at what's going on with the 4 prisoners now, it used to be 3, now it's 4, but when it was 3 and even now, I would have said it's all in the messenger, fellas, and it is fellas because, you know, they haven't figured that the women are smarter right now than the men, so, you know, It's gonna take them about another 150 years, but the Persians are great negotiators, the Iranians are great negotiators, so, and they just killed us. This is horrible here, in the middle of this olive garden. Not sure if that really made a difference. I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue, here, in the middle of this olive garden. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender here, in the middle of this olive garden. I have contained my rage for as long as possible, but I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves. Begone, vile man. Begone from me. A starter car? This car is a finisher car. A transporter of gods. The golden god. I am untethered, and my rage knows no bounds here, in the middle of this olive garden. Arise, arise, riders of Theoden. Spear shall be shaken, shield shall be splintered. A sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. Ride now, ride now, ride. Ride for ruin and the world's ending. Death, death, death. Fourth Eorlingas. Here, in the middle of this olive garden. Poets have been mysteriously silent on the subject of cheese here, in this olive garden. Stop. Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3, here, in the middle of this olive garden. To be or not to be, here, in the middle of this olive garden. And hashtag X200B. Oh screw it, bring me more breadsticks. Wait. I worry that what you heard was bring me a lot of bacon and eggs. What I said was, bring me all the bacon and eggs you have, here, in the middle of this olive garden. Do you understand? You don't offer friendship. You don't even think to call me Godfather. Instead, you come into my house on the day my daughter is to be married, and you ask me to do murder for money, here, in the middle of this olive garden. We're in a gangster's paradise here, in the middle of this olive garden. As God as my witness, I'll never be hungry again here, in the middle of this olive garden. 37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks, here in the middle of this olive garden. One does not simply walk into here, in the middle of this olive garden. I'll be back here, in the middle of this olive garden. Terminator. You will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. Here in the middle of this olive garden. What is my perfect crime? I break into Tiffany's at midnight. Do I go for the vault? No, I go for the chandelier. It's priceless. As I'm taking it down, a woman catches me. She tells me to stop. It's her father's business. She's Tiffany. I say no. We make love all night. In the morning, the cops come and I escape in one of their uniforms. I tell her to meet me in Mexico, but I go to Canada. I don't trust her. Besides, I like the cold. 30 years later, I get a postcard. I have a son and he's the chief of police. This is where the story gets interesting. I tell Tiffany to meet me in Paris by the Trocadero. She's been waiting for me all these years. She's never taken another lover. I don't care. I don't show up. I go to Olive Garden. That's where I stashed the chandelier. Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Once more, the world grind time to a halt here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Spartans, ready your breakfast and eat hearty, for tonight, we dine in hell, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. On my command, unleash hell. Here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. I think, therefore I am here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. In West Philadelphia born and raised, on the playground was where I spent most of my days. Chillin' out maxin' relaxin' all cool, and all shooting some b-ball outside of the school, when a couple of guys who were up to no good, started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight and my mom got scared. She said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel Air." I whistled for a cab and when it came near the license plate said fresh and it had dice in the mirror. If anything I could say that this cab was rare, but I thought, nah, forget it, yo, home to Bel Air. I pulled up to the house about 7 or 8 and I yelled to the cabbie, "Yo home smell ya later." I looked at my kingdom, I was finally there to sit on my throne here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold. And she's here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. In time you will know the tragic extent of my failings, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. That's what she said, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. I'm afraid that won't work either. Now, you have to understand, Evie. I don't want this for either of us, but I couldn't see any other way. You were unconscious, and I had to make a decision. If I had left you there, right now, you'd be in one of Creedy's interrogation cells. They'd imprison you, torture you, and, in all probability, kill you in the pursuit of finding me. After what you did, I couldn't let that happen, so I picked you up and carried you to the only place I knew you'd be safe, here, to my home. In the middle of this Olive Garden. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in with me here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. I would say to the house as I said to those who have joined this government, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. We have before us many, many long months of struggle and of suffering here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. You will take nothing from me, dwarf. I laid low your warriors of old. I instill terror in the hearts of men. I am king under the mountain here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Smog, the Hobbit. The best thing about visiting the president is the food. Now, since it was all free, and I wasn't hungry but thirsty, I must have drank me 15 Dr. Peppers here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. When you're a star, they let you do it, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Andy did like he was told, buffed those shoes to a high mirror shine. The guards simply didn't notice. Neither did I. I mean, seriously, how often do you really look at a man's shoes? Andy, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden, crawled to freedom through 500 yards of shit-smelling foulness I can't even imagine, or maybe I just don't want to. 500 yards, that's the length of 5 football fields, just shy of half a mile. Here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Aurora Borealis? Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club. Third rule of Fight Club, someone yells stop, goes limp, taps out, the fight is over. Fourth rule, only 2 guys to a fight. Fifth rule, 1 fight at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to. And the eighth and final rule, if this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Hide yo kids, hide yo wife, and hide your husband, 'cause they're rapping everybody. We are going to build a wall, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. ET2, brute. Here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. December 7th, 1941 is a date that will live in infamy, here in the middle of this Olive Garden. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement I kinda lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world and would blow your head clean off, you've gotta ask yourself one question: do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk? Here, in the middle of this Olive Garden? I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement here, in the middle of this Olive Garden, I kind of lost track myself. But being that this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself one question: do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk? Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. What's a girl like you doing with a guy like me, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden? Picard, there are 4 lights here in the middle of this Olive Garden. Ghoul Matrade, OFFS. Glencater, you have administered the psychotropic to the wrong inmate. Avengers, assemble, here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Ho ho ho, now I have a machine gun here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Death is lighter than a feather, duty heavier than a mountain, here in the middle of this Olive Garden. You couldn't live with your own failure, and where did that bring you? Back to me here, in the middle of this Olive Garden. Are you guys fucking? Are you serious? Right in front of my salad here, in the middle of this Olive Garden? Joey doesn't share food here, in the middle of this Olive Garden.